Welcome, public at large and school safety subcabinet members. We haven't met in a bit, but excited to come together virtually. And so we have a pretty heavy grant oriented meeting today. And then I think other than that, just some closing items. And then if there's anything else you'd like to bring up, let us know. But with that, I'll give it over to Kate and her team to facilitate the agenda with us today. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So yes, as Mr. Chowdhury said, we're going to kick it off with grants. So I'm going to turn it over to Gifty Quarshie.
All right. Good morning, members of the Subcabinet. It's good to see everyone again. Like Mr. Chowdhury said, yes, we have quite a few grants to go through today. So for the fiscal year 2023 Safe Schools Fund grant, MCSS received a total of 30 applications. 22 of those applications were from local school systems. We did receive 7 applications from non-public schools, and of course, because they did not meet the eligibility requirements, they were rejected outright. We also received 1 duplicate application from one of the local school systems. Now, if you remember, we already went through 2 applications for Allegheny County Public Schools and Charles County Public Schools. Those applications were approved during the August 8th, 2022 meeting. So we have 20 applications in front of you today. And before I move on, there were 2 school systems that did not submit their applications. We did not receive applications from Dorchester County Public Schools, nor did we receive applications from Prince George's County Public Schools. And just for the record, I will go through all 20 school systems and the amount that they requested. And once I go over them, if you have any questions, about any particular applications, please feel free to present those questions.
Mr. Chair, before we go into the specifics, I have a question about the summary.
Okay. Is that a question we can entertain right now based on the order of agenda, Kate?
Or Secretary Beatty, is that a question about the summary of the grants?
Yeah, it's a question about the memo that Gifty provided.
Okay, I thought you were talking about summary of a prior meeting or something. No, of course.
No. Okay. So I have a question about the non-public schools. So in the past, there has been a mechanism, I think at least on 1 year and maybe on subsequent years, to provide grant opportunities to non-public schools. Can you give an update on that?
Absolutely, that's a very good question. So in fiscal year 2019 and 2020, as many of you will remember, the Safe Schools Fund grant had an appropriation of $10 million. But starting in fiscal year 21, that appropriation, of course, was reduced. We already knew it was going to be that based on what was in the Safe to Learn Act, but it was reduced to $600,000. And so effectively, there wasn't enough money to go around. And if you would notice, since fiscal year 2021, the per jurisdiction allocation became $25,000 because, again, the funding was significantly reduced. I would say, however, that as far as MCSS is concerned, we do have 2 grants now that non-public schools participate in. The first one is the Hate Crimes Grant, but we also started administering the IAC Non-Public School Safety Security Improvement Grant last year. We are also administering those grants this year. So there is still an avenue for non-public schools to apply for funding with MCSS, but of course, there are also the same avenue within, grants that are available at MSDE. But as far as the Safe Schools Fund grant is concerned, due to the limited funding, non-public schools are no longer able to apply. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, just a follow-up quick question. So will there be notification sent to non-public about these additional grant opportunities, and when would that happen?
Yes, ma'am. So that has already happened and it continues to happen. We did announce the non-public school safety security improvement grant formerly administered by the IAC. We announced that, I believe, 3 or 4 weeks ago. There is ample notification that goes out and subsequent ones that go out as a reminder to all of our non-public schools partners. The notices go out through GovDelivery, but because we also have the benefit of all of the non-public schools that are applied during the prior years, we just directly send them the notifications to submit their applications. But again, there are subsequent messages that do go out. We work collaboratively with the IAC to send out messages and notifications as well. So as they are sending out reminders for their grants, these grants are also included so that we can make sure we're reaching all of our non-public school partners.
So thank you. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Keep going.
All right, thank you. So just for the record, I will go through all 20 schools and the amount that they requested. And like I said, if there are any specific questions, we can entertain those. So before you, we are submitting for review 20 new Safe Schools Fund grant applications from the following jurisdictions. Anne Arundel County Public Schools is requesting $24,960. Baltimore City Public Schools is requesting $25,000. Baltimore County Public Schools is requesting $25,000. Calvert County Public Schools is requesting $25,000. Caroline County Public Schools is requesting $25,000. Carroll County Public Schools is requesting $25,000. Cecil County Public Schools is requesting $24,997. Frederick County Public Schools, my favorite county, is requesting $25,000. Garrett County Public Schools is requesting $24,953. Hartford County Public Schools is requesting $25,000. Howard County Public Schools is requesting $25,000. Kent County Public Schools is requesting $25,000. Montgomery County Public Schools is requesting $25,000. Queen Anne's Public Schools is requesting $24,969. Somerset County Public Schools is requesting $25,000. St. Mary's County Schools is requesting $25,000. Talbot County Public Schools is requesting $24,923. Washington County Public Schools is requesting $25,000. Wycomico County Public Schools is requesting $25,000. And the last but not the least is Worcester County, who is also requesting $25,000. And we had already sent out each of the application detail, all of the budget and the actual narrative for each of the applications. So with that, I will open it up for any questions and turn it over to Chairman Chowdhury.
Do you, so if there's any questions about a specific grant, when I first started, I remember we did all of these one by one. So we can, if you would like, or we can do, I think we're allowed to do, if I'm looking at council, one full swoop in terms of approval. I see 2 lawyers on here, one councilman-elect and a lawyer, and another lawyer that I know well, who works with the department. And so if we can do that, please let me know. But if anyone wants to go one by one, I'm happy to entertain that as well.
You are free to have a motion to approve them all at one time and then discuss any other questions that anyone may have before your vote.
Got it. Thank you, Council. So any questions from anyone on any specific grant, any specific area? If not, I will ask for a motion. So I'm going to do some wait time. Mr. Pothier.
Sorry, I'll move to approve.
Okay, there we go. So we have a motion to approve all grants. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, Colonel Jones, and any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 Anyone against? Seeing none, motion passes. All right, let's move on to our next item. Kate?
Thank you. The next item, it's at near the bottom of the materials you were provided, is the draft of the annual report. So as a reminder, this is a requirement of the Safe to Learn Act. It is a report of the subcabinet on the activities of the center. So if you would like to, if you have any questions about the draft annual report, if you have any comments, otherwise it will be up for approval and vote by the subcabinet. So I will turn it back to the chair.
Any discussions on that item? Kate, can you just give for the public at large just what kinds of things the annual report just covers, just a high level, so people know?
Absolutely. So in addition to outlining the members of the subcabinet, the advisory board, our staff, it also talks through the activities that the Maryland Center for School Safety has been doing over the last year. So some of those things we discuss the annual school safety conference. We discuss the grants we've administered. We discuss the emergency plans we reviewed, collection of summaries for facility assessments. We talked about some of the new initiatives. So this year, MCSS launched tabletop exercises. So every month we upload 4 new tabletop exercises for schools, and that includes not just public schools, but our non-public special education facilities, as well as private schools throughout the state can use them. They're really short. They're intended to be really short discussion-based exercises to allow staff within school facilities to test their knowledge of their emergency plans. So that's been a really great initiative. We're going to have 4 new ones every month. We have 8 up there now, and by the end of the school year, we'll have enough for schools and school systems to be able to run a tabletop exercise every week of the school year. So that's exciting. We talked again a lot about our summer conference. We've announced that our summer conference for next year will be in July again. We're waiting to confirm the dates, but we're very excited about that, and we'll hope that many of you will join us for that. We discussed the update to the SRO and school security employee training. So that's the mandated training that MCSS provides to all school resource officers and security employees in the state. We did an update and revision to that training in late 2021, early 2022, and we've already begun our training of school resource officers and security employees in the new training. So that's also very exciting.
Great. Thank you, Kate. Can I have a motion to approve our annual report?
So moved.
I see a motion by Secretary Beatty. A second? Oh, Mr.
I'll second.
Pottinger. Seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Seeing no anyone against or abstentions, we can move forward. Motion passes. Next item looks like it's the transportation safety study from 2016 to 2020. Kate?
I'm going to turn it over to J.N. Jabraj, who's going to go through the transportation safety study that he led for our office. J.N.?
All right, good morning, everyone. Give me 1 second. Let me quickly present this slide here.
Jan is pulling up his slides. The report, which is quite large, is included in your materials that were sent out ahead of time.
Right, do you see my slides?
Mm-hmm.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is J.N. Jabraj. I'm the Business Solutions and Data Manager at Maryland Center for School Safety. Today, I'll be presenting an exciting report on transportation safety study surrounding schools. In order to understand why we undertook this study, let's go back to Safe to Learn Act of 2018 and see the legislative mandates that were established on the center. and also a little bit on the subcabinet itself. So here you could see from the language that MCSS is mandated to provide safety information on traveling to and from school to parents and students twice a year. That includes data related to bus and pedestrian safety, strategies for ensuring personal safety, efforts of the local school system or schools to improve safety, and information on the available option for reporting incidents or concerns. So you can see it's very much transportation focused on kids going from their house to the school or from school to the house. And we do a lot of outreach in terms of bus safety and all. In fact, the picture you see there is one of our safety videos on YouTube, which got over 250,000 views on YouTube regarding not stopping for school bus and what are the consequences. Further down, there are other data related mandates that were established on the center as well as on the subcabinet, as you can see here. All of them focus towards putting centralizing data, putting them together, make them transparent, accessible, as well as finding clearinghouses to publish it out, and also using those data to make decisions that will make our school safe. Now, that is kind of the background of the study. So within this transportation study, there were 3 areas that I had to focus on. One regarding the modes of transportation, right? So you have a child going from a house to a school, either using the school bus or using the parent's vehicle, or sometimes they drive themselves if they're a high schooler, or they could be a walker. So in this case, a pedestrian safety or a bike safety, as well as school bus safety, seems to be the focus for the mode of transportations that were in there. So in order to analyze that, there were a few different data sets I had to capture, and MCSS collaborated with the Maryland Department of Transportation as well as the Maryland courts in order to see how we can bring this to some sort of situational awareness where we can see what's going on when a kid goes from a house to a school. What are the hazards? What are the safety measures that we can undertake within that span? So here you can see crash data is one of the big data sets. It's a very comprehensive data sets that we were able to tap into, and Washington College, through MDOT's contract, did an amazing job in analyzing the crash data using geospatial technologies. Also, when it comes to school buses, when people are not stopping for school bus, or when school bus drivers don't obey the law and get citations for it, we analyzed citation data from the Maryland courts and figured out what the situational awareness is at that area as well. Finally, what do we do with the data? Once we run the analysis, how do we integrate that so that people can build upon what we've already done and use those data and connect to us through the open data portal of Maryland. So just to give a quick rundown on how this data flows and how hard it is to pin down to certain data that is already in a particular workflow. So if you notice a typical crash happening in any roads, the first responder is going to be one of the law enforcement local police. So the local police are connected to a common system called ACRES, and that's where all their ticketing information of the crash data goes into. So when they give you that long form of what happened and both the parties and everything, so it goes into that particular system, which is maintained by Maryland State Police. And from that point on, a subset of that particular data set gets filtered out and shared with Maryland Department of Transportation, State Highway Administration for further analysis. And from there, the data flows to Maryland Department of Transportation's Maryland Vehicle Administration for record keeping and to report to some of the federal requirements. And within Maryland Department of Transportation's MVA, there is a Transportation Safety Office which looks at all these data sets, and then they further analyze those data sets of the crashes using few contracts with Washington College, where they analyze geospatially how these data, what the data shows and how they can improve on safety and how they can report to the federal requirements as well. So this is where we partnered with the Maryland Department of Transportation's Highway Safety Office, and then we utilized one of their contracts to get access to Washington College's analysis, and then we piggybacked on that to run this analysis surrounding schools. So let me get into the actual analysis itself. So this report, just to be clear, this is from 2016 to 2020. So it's a 5-year long-term report. We didn't want to do a 1-year report because, with COVID, data is not very standardized or accurate. So doing a 5-year gives a pretty good picture of what we can see in here. We did county by county, so jurisdictional level, and as also certain citations and stuff even further down. Now, a few things to consider here. There are the analysis was run on 1,449 public schools. I know some of you may think that's a lot more schools than what we normally see. That is because within the 5-year period, there were some schools that were open that are no longer open. And within that 5-year period, there were some schools that were newly opened. So we included all those schools because safety concern is important around any school that was part of that particular year's analysis. And also school-age children, we counted from age 3 to age 19 to be inclusive of pre-K all the way to a high school or a senior. And also school hours, we did August 15 through June 15 of the following year. And also for the timing, it's 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's what you would see the data filtered down in many aspects. Now, in this slide, you could see a quick overview of what this whole situation is within Maryland for crashes. I want you to focus on this particular big number, 564,000 plus crashes within Maryland. That's a total number of crashes across the board for 5 years. So within that, 389,000 plus crashes happened within 1 mile of a public school. This 1 mile is really important here because that 1 mile criteria was derived from what we call as the definition of a walker. A kid goes from the house to the school, and that we concluded to be 1 mile on a median between all the jurisdictions. We could see some define it as 3/4 of a mile, some define it as 1.5 miles, but in general, 1 mile seems to be the standard across the board for what each jurisdiction refers to as walkers. So we calculated everything around 1 mile of a school, and 70% of the crashes in Maryland happens within 1 mile of a school. And that is a reason for it, because schools do happen to be in locations where population density is higher, or school does serve that community. So you do see schools everywhere where there is population. So it is not unusual that crashes happen around a mile of a school, but it also brings the importance of focusing on transportation safety around schools, because if we tackle this problem, 70% of the state's problem for transportation is gone, and also a few things to consider here. 0.7 or 0.66% of all crashes were something to do with a bicycle. Bicycle was involved, and also pedestrian. 2.61% of crashes in Maryland involved a pedestrian within those crashes. So those are a couple of numbers that we can focus on, especially the pedestrian one, because that's where our walkers come into play. What you see here within the yellow circles are the school-focused numbers. What you see here is a school-age person, which is between 3 and 19. So 80,000 crashes happens with someone involved in a school age. And then you have also 43,000 plus crashes where a school age driver is involved. This is our typical teen driver who is doing a crash within a school zone, within a mile of a school. And also 30,000 has a school age occupant. This could be a parent driving a kid to school, or another teenager driving someone else, brother or someone, to school as well. So you could see that, we are looking at a big chunk. This is a 5-year study, so approximately you can see, for 6,000 some occupants, as well as a few other here. If you look at the patterns, the number of injury in here, if you look at the fatal injury, it's actually growing every year. It's not going down. The only thing you would see normally is 2020 would tend to go down. That's because during COVID that was locked down midway. But still, the pattern is sort of going up, which is of greater concern here. So that's the overall picture. Now I want you to focus on just bicycles and see what we see here. I just want you to focus on these yellow numbers. This is total bicycle crashes within 1 mile of a public school involving a school-age driver. This is a driver, teenage driver, coming in contact with a bicycle person. And that's 32. May not look like a lot, but when it gets to pedestrian, it becomes, the similar calculations becomes much higher than bicycle. And with occupant 12, and with the kids who are actually biking to school, 270. So you're talking about 50 to 60 kids every year in a bike going to school getting involved in a crash. When you look at the patterns of how it happens, it is not surprising that during the winter it's down, and during the summer and fall, the crashes are high. This is bike, that's when they normally ride. And this is also sort of important that when you look at the timing of when these crashes happen, they all happen in the evening. This is the similar pattern with pedestrian as well, which is really interesting, as well as an informative piece of data. If we are putting some resource into mitigating this particular area, we can focus on the evening compared to the morning to get better results. Similarly here in pedestrian, very similar categories. You have school-age driver hitting a pedestrian about 81, and school-age occupant 44. And here's the main data where pedestrian crashes within 1 mile of a public school involving a school-age pedestrian. So these are the kids that are directly getting hit within 1 mile of a school. So we have nearly 400 kids in the past 5 years who've been involved in some sort of a crash while they were walking to school. And that is a number I just want you to remember. Again, the patterns are the same. Fall seems to trend a lot more compared to other months, and then evening seems to be also in focus. So this is something we studied after looking through all those data, running a bunch of geospatial calculations within that. Now then we went on to see jurisdiction by jurisdiction, geospatially, how the hotspots are panning out. I don't want to go through every jurisdiction, so I'll just give a couple of samples here. So Allegheny County is very predictable. As you can see, there's a couple of big cities, and that's where you would normally see pedestrians walking around. So Cumberland and Frostburg are the major cities, and you could see the hotspots hitting right on those cities. And you also notice that there is a difference between biking and pedestrian here. There is literally no bike incidents in Frostburg. You would be surprised there because there's a university there. You would expect more people to bike there, but Cumberland seems to be the only focus for bike. And also overall crashes seem to have slightly different pattern. You have another hotspot evolving to the south of Cumberland there. So you could see these are schools. Every single point there is a school, and every single circle there is a mile of a school. So you could see which school has more activity going on around it in terms of crashes. And we did this analysis going to jurisdiction by jurisdiction. Here you can see Baltimore County, very similar statistics. You can see that pedestrians in those major walkable areas, but bike, Dundalk seems to stand out. But in car crashes, Dundalk is not the focus, more like Catonsville through Security Boulevard, that side seems to be the focus, where car crashes seems to be happening on the west side of Baltimore. So feel free to reach out to me for, if you need your jurisdiction by jurisdiction. We'll be posting this pretty soon on our website as well. Now, let me shift gears to something here from the pedestrian and the bike safety to school bus safety. So what you see here are the citations issued to vehicle drivers for school bus infractions. So this is when a car that does not stop for a school bus. One thing to note here is that none of these numbers are reflective of any of these automated stop arm cameras that are popping up in the local jurisdictions nowadays. When this study was done, there was only one county that had stop arm camera, and that was running a pilot during that. So we did not take that into account. If you run this study the next time, we would see the numbers bloat up due to automated stop arm cameras that are fixed to the bus itself. What you see here is on the left is the traffic article 21706 is the failure to stop for a school vehicle operating flashing red light. So this is people who are zooming past a school bus, and this traffic article 21706 is failure to remain stopped for a stopped school vehicle operating alternately flashing red light. So one is they don't care, they just went past the bus. The other one is they stopped or hesitated, remained stopped, and then they took off. So two different mentalities in terms of how these violations are performed. And you could see the difference in numbers. One has over 2,000, the other has 373. So that is what we figured. If you look at the breakdown, it pretty much mirrors the number of schools. We have more schools, more school buses, and more citations based on that. Then another perspective of this school bus safety study is that to see how many citations were issued to a school bus driver when they are not obeying the law, how many citations were issued. So there are two codes, two traffic articles for that, 211118 and 16816. So those two were specifically made for school bus drivers citations. But when we queried that particular data set, we came up with the number 0. We couldn't find a single citations issued to that particular code. So which brought the question, and we started digging deeper and deeper. Do they not queue tickets, or is there something else going on? Then what we ended up doing is we looked at the make and model of these school buses and started querying by make and model. And then we understood that traffic police generally seems to issue tickets under normal commercial vehicle articles and not under specific school bus article. So we've pulled over 900 citations that were given to school bus drivers within the 5-year span. And you could see the breakdown here. And there were 618 moving violations and 271 non-moving violations. So this was a gap that we identified, basically is to make sure that we train law enforcement so that they would put school bus codes along with their normal commercial codes when they're citing these school bus drivers. And let me go back down. Right, we're getting there. So if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me. All right. So this is a tally of all overall crashes that we saw, and the bicycle crashes, as well as pedestrian crashes by jurisdiction reported down. Apart from that, within the appendix, we listed the entirety of the citations that were issued to school bus drivers under various categories. There were way too many on the commercial side, so we had to put it all on the appendix here. So it's like pages and pages of appendix. So finally, how does this study help? First of all, this is the first time this study was ever done. So data is crucial to make decisions, and that's where we are focusing. That's what we are focusing here. And what you see here as hotspots, to understand that and to mitigate accordingly to the data is a big plus. We can focus our efforts onto specific areas where we identify the problems. and then mitigate them then and there. The second important area is pedestrian and bike. This particular data can be used as a foundation for local jurisdictions to calculate walk sheds, to calculate safe path to school, as well as to calculate safe bicycle path to school, and also build upon school level safety on top of this. And we've already seen more than 3 jurisdictions that have requested the data to build upon this particular data set, and then make safe path to school a publicly available option where you can avoid walking on areas where there is a hazard that is proven to take place, whether it's crash data or other accessibility problems. So what's next? This was a long-term study that covered 5 years. So another long-term study in 3 to 5 years to compare the safety progress in the transportation field would be ideal. We are comparing apples to apples that way. COVID did skew the data a little bit. So that's why a 5-year study is essential, so that we don't get too much of 1 year COVID data and then skew the numbers. So next 5-year study will tell if we improved or if we have to do more in terms of efforts. Data availability is another big deal. Like I said, this is a foundational data. All the raw GIS data sets will be available for other jurisdictions to build upon. They don't have to run this study. They don't have to do all the geospatial analysis that we did. They can just build upon it. So we will be putting it on our website as well as on the Maryland's open data portal when it comes to data availability for anyone to build upon. So that is the end of the transportation safety analysis surrounding schools. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Any questions from anyone? Lots of amazing work and data was put into that. So it's good that we are beginning to track and look at that. Also just important in light of the other conversation related to bus driver shortage and everything else and challenges around transportation. So as we look to find a way to increase that, don't compromise safety as well. So all of that will come into tension with one another as we go forward. But any other comments or anything from the committee? All right, Kate.
Thank you. The last item before you get to your discussion regarding upcoming meetings for next year, Mr. Chair, is just a comment for the public and the group as a whole. So we at the Maryland Center for School Safety have been incredibly honored to have the support, the support and assistance of Ms. Luedtke, who has served as the counsel to the Maryland Center for School Safety since, and to the subcabinet since the Safe to Learn Act was enacted in 2018. Prior to that, she provided support to the governing board. She has really served as an incredible resource, advisor, and counsel to not just the Maryland Center for School Safety, but the Maryland Longitudinal Data Systems Center and the Active Assailant Interdisciplinary Work Group, and most recently this year to the Maryland Department of Emergency Management. So I would just like to publicly thank Dawn for all of the fantastic work, assistance, support, counsel, and just keeping me sane over the last 4 years. So really do appreciate all of her hard work, effort. Very excited for her in her next endeavor, but also very sad for this center to be losing such an incredible resource. So thank you, Dawn.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, it's bitter. I'm excited about the future, but it's also bittersweet that this is my last meeting. So thank you, everyone.
And on behalf of the board, I've only worked with you a year and a few months, so I know the others have worked with you longer, but it has been a pleasure, and I speak on behalf of the board when we say we will miss you and we wish you best. And I know good things will happen in Montgomery County District 7. And so we look forward to watching that work unfold. And again, thank you so much for your service. Any other board members, if you'd like to say anything, please do. If not, we can move forward with the rest of the agenda.
Just a heartfelt thank you, Dawn. You were so incredibly helpful when this subcabinet started and just kept us going in the right direction and was always available to answer any questions that we had. So thank you so much and best of luck.
Thank you.
All right. Kate, do you want to go over the future dates?
So on your calendar, you have, or on your agenda, there are 4 dates that are the quarterly dates going off of the last couple of years. So that would be February 13th, May 8th, August 14th, and November 13th. So that would be if you continue to follow the quarterly pattern. One question for the subcabinet is, given the large number of grant applications that seem to come in toward or around the November meeting timeframe, would the subcabinet be open to having just a grant only application meeting sometime in either September or October, just to focus in on any of the grant applications that may have come in before the November meeting?
Seeing head nods, not this way, but this way. So
Yeah, that's yeah, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if that seems to be the right way to manage it, it seems like the appropriate course.
Okay, you have the support of the subcommittee to move forward.
All right, thank you.
Is that our agenda for today?
There's your agenda for today.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for the public for joining in. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion, Colonel Jones, second.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Pottier. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Seeing no one against this motion, we are officially adjourned. Thank you so much.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.